Hey everyone, Kevin here. What I'd like to do in this video is help you decipher why your smartphone stopped recording video. This is a problem that most people will encounter at one point where you're recording video, whether it be 4K or 1080p, 720p, slow motion, whatever. You will be recording your video and it will just stop recording. It's very frustrating, it's very annoying, but hopefully if you know what's going on, you can stop it from happening. So what I'd quickly like to talk about is the file system. Apple use what they call the Apple file system, APFS, and the good news is that with Android and with an Apple iPhone, you don't have to worry about file size limits anymore. The file size limit on Apple file system is insanely huge. That's 8 petabytes, which is an insane amount of storage. So that's not something you need to worry about. On Android, they used the 4th extended file system. And again, the file size is insanely huge. You don't have to worry about that at all. Same with exFAT, and exFAT is what is being used in micro SD cards now. It's kind of the de facto standard for that now. The file size for that is huge. So you don't really have to worry about file size. Going back a few years, FAT32, which is what most other micro SD cards used up to, I think it was 32 gigabytes. That had a file size limit of 4 gigabyte, and I think before that maybe even 2 gigabyte with Android. So there were limitations to how long you can record. There's no such limitation from a file structure point of view with any modern smartphone, so you shouldn't run into any problems like that. A few years ago it was a different story, but you shouldn't run into any problems like that. Now, one of the main problems is how your phone can handle recording video. When you record from a modern smartphone and you record in 4K, I'll just do that just now, you will see that the limit here is 6 minutes. On the OnePlus 5 that I reviewed last week, the limit was 10 minutes, but you're going to see this limit over and over with modern smartphones. The reason being, you don't want to overheat your smartphone. This is the Sony RX100 Mark III. The 4th version of this could record 4K, and I remember when it first came out, a lot of people were complaining because it had a 5-minute limit for recording 4K, which is kind of impractical and kind of pointless in some ways, but many people didn't even get 5 minutes. What they got was 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, and then the camera would shut it down because it was overheating. So the same thing happens with the smartphone. When you're recording in 4K, you do run the risk of your CPU overheating. It'll get higher. In fact, if I start recording, you maybe see the temperature that I've got up here going up. Look at that, 34, 35 degrees. It goes up right away. Now, this is there to protect you. If you kept it running past this limit, and there are ways around it if you root your phone and things like that, you could run the risk of burning out your CPU, causing damage to your phone. So my advice would be not to work around it and just be careful, because you can see the temperature's going up very, very quickly there. So temperature is one of the things that can shut down a recording. Your phone is designed to try and protect you from burning out. And you can see the temperature, it was up the top there. I'm using an app called CPU Temperature. And in fact, I'll show you the Play Store. There's lots of apps like this on the Google Play Store and on Apple App Store. You'll find lots of CPU apps and things that will help you monitor your battery and your CPU. I tried this one. I think it's okay. Helps me see what's going on. And if you're finding that recording video is cutting out, you might want to check out the CPU temperature. It'll give you a better indication of what's happening. This app will show you what's spiking and things like that, and it'll help you track what's causing the problem. You can change Celsius to Fahrenheit. You can see I've made it draggable at the top there, but I can just keep it fixed, and it'll tell me the temperature at all times. And that will help me see if there's something going, something's going up, something's going wrong, something's causing problems. The analyze section is quite useful as well. It tells you the average CPU temperature when an app was running. You can see when the camera was being run, it was very high. When it was charging, it was a lot higher as well. Again, this is average. If you're doing lots of different things at the same time, you can give a kind of fake reading because, for example, if I was charging and using the camera and I opened Amazon Music. Amazon Music might be rated higher because it's, the average CPU temperature when that app is open. So that's something to bear in mind. Obviously, storage, the amount of storage that you've got is a factor too. So you'll need to look at how much storage you have. This one has 64 gigabytes of storage built in, and I've got a 256 gigabyte card. I'm not really using much there, and it's 230 gigabyte is usable. Now, there's plenty of storage here, but if I didn't have a lot of storage, say, I only had a couple of gigabyte storage left, you might find that when you're recording, it will cut out. Now, this is a common problem with people who buy the 8 gigabyte and 16 gigabyte phones, iPhones and things like that, and, mid-range Android phones. You will get 16 gig, but you don't actually get that. You get, 14 or something like that because of the different way the memory's listed. And then you've got 5 or 6 gig for the operating system, and you're left with 8 gig. You install a couple of apps, and then you can't even update the operating system. You've got no memory left. I've seen a lot of friends go through this problem. And if you're low on memory, low on storage, this is something that you're going to struggle with, because recording video obviously takes up a lot of room. 4K takes up a huge amount of room, and 1080p can even take up a lot of room. So storage is something you need to check as well. If you find that your videos are getting cut off, when you're recording, they're getting cut off right away, just do a double check that you've got enough storage. Now you can see I did a lot of tests yesterday. Barely there was tooth out there, getting old now. You can see I was doing lots of tests. Now my videos, I recorded 2 or 3 of them, then I deleted them, I did some more. Very frustrating. And my video was recording its front camera, it was 1080p. It was recording around 1.5 gigabytes for 10 minutes. So it was around the 1.5 gigabyte mark. The video was stopping recording, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if it was a storage issue. I didn't think it was a storage issue, but I didn't know if it was like a file recording limit built into the phone. It's not. I didn't know if it was to do with the CPU temperature. Now, all these tests I did here was me testing the CPU temperature. I just sat the phone down. You can see my head popping out there. And I just sat it there recording 1080p from the front camera, and I just let it run. After 17 minutes, I stopped it. I did it again. I got to 11 minutes 17. That time I got over 12 minutes, and I was like, okay, clearly it's not happening now. So I did a lot of tests. This is what I was recording with when it cut out, when I get cut off yesterday. So I did lots of battery tests with the CPU temperature, testing it with recording it on its own, and then I tested it using power. So I wasn't sure if it was maybe a battery issue because it was 50%, but it didn't seem to be. I tested it using this, which the external microphone will draw power, so I thought maybe that was a problem. But again, I was getting 12 minutes, 13 minutes. It didn't seem to be an issue. So what will maybe surprise all of you, because it seems to be, I think this is the problem. Before I say this is definitely the problem, I'm 99.9% sure. It seems to be this bad boy that caused the problem for me, which I was really surprised with. Basically, when I was recording videos, I'll just show you an example. In fact, I'll connect with Bluetooth. So I turned this on. IME photo connected, and we've got the little shutter button here, and I would say start. I would start recording, and then when I finish a video, I can do that. Just helps me start and stop the video without leaning over to the phone and pressing the button. Now, what was actually happening was the battery in this was low, which I didn't know. This doesn't have a battery indicator. And the battery was low, and what I believe is happening, I'm pretty sure about, is that when the battery was going low, it was switching off and it was stopping the video. The reason I think it's that is because I did lots of tests this morning when the battery was even more drained, and it was cutting out after 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds. All of these videos were getting cut off because the Bluetooth connection was getting lost. So if you're using a Bluetooth shutter button just like me to record your videos, I know it's a long shot. I know that most of you won't be using something like this, but if you do use something like this to record videos, if you're standing a few feet away from the camera, you push the button, it's very handy. But if the battery is drained, I've never heard of this before, but it seems to be like a Bluetooth issue where it was stopping the video. And I think that's quite rare that someone will have the same situation as me. For most people, what I would do is first is look at whether there is any kind of limit put on onto the phone by the phone company themselves. As I said, for this, there's a 4K limit of 6 minutes. There's no such limit for the front camera for 1080p. It's only for 4K because it burns up. So I've got 238 gigabytes there in SD card. In theory, where are we? Where's the calculator? Here we go. You can see I did this calculation before. It's 1.5 gigabytes for 10 minutes. So over an hour, it's 9 gigabytes. That's about 26.444 hours. Nearly 27 hours of footage I could, in theory, record through this phone. Obviously, I'd have to keep it powered and things like that. And, I'd have to make sure the battery was there and there was no other problems at calls coming, anything else that could cause problems. But in theory, I could record for a huge amount of time with this phone. And really, that's what you need to do, is really just kind of look at what could be causing it. If there's an app or some sort of external problem like this, anything that can be interfering, check where there's nothing else causing conflictions with the app. Check the CPU temperature to make sure that your phone isn't burning up. Check that you've got enough storage. As I was saying before, and I kind of went off on a tangent, check that there isn't any file recording limit. I've got a 4K limit of 6 minutes here. There's no such limit on 1080p, but if you are recording using a different phone, perhaps a mid-range phone would have a file recording limit for 1080p because different phones use different CPUs, which means that they handle cooling and temperature and things like that a little bit differently. Even older versions of the Snapdragon series will burn a higher temperature. They will run at a higher temperature. For example, the 810 was notorious for running at higher temperatures than this. This is a latest chip, the 835. It runs a little bit cooler, but it will depend on the phone you're using, whether the company, Sony or Apple, whatever, has put on any file recording limit. It will depend on the chip that you're using and whether that overheats. And, most phone companies, what they do is if there is a problem with the CPU overheating, they will put on some sort of file limit. For most people, they don't even know it's there because they're recording short clips. But if you're recording for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it is cutting out, and there's no other factors that seem to be contributing, such as temperature, storage, that kind of thing, it could be just a limit put on by the phone manufacturer. So you can Google that and then see if it is the case. I hope you guys have found this useful. I thankfully had an easy fix. Just my shutter button had to be recharged. But for the rest of you, hopefully I've pointed you in the right direction. And this is frustrating. If you're recording a lot of footage and then it's cutting out, it's very, very annoying. And hopefully I'll help you get to the bottom of it, guys. If you have any tips, any advice on this, please do leave a comment below and share them with other people. I'd love to hear from all you guys. I do enjoy replying to your comments, as you know. And thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.